The corners keep us young. My wife has heard me say this probably too many times in our marriage, that I do my best when I'm backed into a corner. And now, literally decades after my first cornered experience, I still feel the same way about them. I still feel as young when I'm in a corner as ever before. And it's time for another unbuckled, bumpy ride with your guide, the stark raving LEAN-atic himself. I'm Jim. Let's jump right in again. Welcome to my podcast based on my brand new book, available on Amazon, Live Life Lean, L-E-A-N. It's a year-long guide to gratitude in our daily grind. The book that combines some timeless wisdom from a whole lot of the world's wiser people with the reflections, reactions, and wisecracks of the guide's author, me. And it guides you, the reader, through the simplest system for a happy, healthy, authentic, and genuinely grateful everyday experience. I urge you to get the book. Of course I do. I wrote it. It's either at Amazon or at my website, ampurage.com, A-M-M-P-U-R-A-G-E. But even without it, let's make next week better than last, our next year better than the past, and get started now with today's episode of... See, everyone sees the word corner a little differently, but most see it as limiting, finite, like a dead end. We turn corners, though. We cut corners, we knock off corners, and sometimes we just corner corners. My grandfather, rest in peace, was nicknamed Two Wheels because, well, legend has it, that's how he drove around every street corner. Just two wheels. Nope, not a bicycle. His car. But few people see corners as keeping them young, like I do. With your back physically or even metaphysically in a corner, you can work harder with fewer concerns about backstabbing, backstepping, or backsliding. And it's that forward focus and effort that keeps you younger. The corners in our world, they keep you young. Corners are put there for a purpose. They're intersections of lines, and they intersect our lives, and they are meant to be there purposefully. Corners they don't happen on accident. Look around nature. And it is virtually unnatural for you to find a corner. The rarest geological formation may, on occasion, occur with right angles that, amidst their surroundings, they look, kind of wrong and out of place there, kinda. But corners exist existentially on purpose and for a purpose, and yet we conveniently contrive their inconvenience in our lives. But corners, they keep us young. Matter of fact, if I didn't know better, I'd swear the fountain of youth is tucked away in some corner someplace, which is probably why it hasn't been found yet. Youth is kept in the corners, and sometimes so are youths. Youths, I should say. As my cousin Vinny said, the youths. Youths are kept in the corners. It was preschool, Orange County, California. I was under 5 years of age, and I spent my fair share of time sniffing corners. Meaning, with my nose in a corner, as a timeout for some way that I'd acted out. It's just what they did way back when. I'm pretty sure that the architects who drew up the plans for my preschool didn't do so thinking, hey, here's a good place to put a corner. Make it easy for the teacher to have some kids stand in it, nose to the drywall, and think about their behaviors right in front of the whole kindergarten class. But with or without forethought, that corner when I was young, it left its impression on more than just the tip of my nose. Corners are there for a reason. And the reason for corners is to round out the rough edges in nature and in us and for us. Corners are our friends, guys. And even with our noses wedged in them, they've got our backs. Hey, there's a sports reference for the day. Our friend, the cornerback. On a different podcast, different day. All our lives, we have found ourselves at times in a corner. When we were young, we were told to stand with our nose in a corner. Some of us, like I said, that is. When we got older, we found ourselves backed into a corner by bullies or bosses, or heaven forbid for some, bad boyfriends. When we took chances and choices but we chose wrong, we even painted ourselves into a corner. But corners get looked at from a bad angle, so to speak. See, the problem isn't the corner. It's the feeling of being cornered. Yeah, I did say cornered, not coronered. But stay in a corner too long, and yeah, your possibilities of escaping could show up with a toe tag deceased, DOA, or at least definitely diminished. Corners aren't magic. The magic trick to them is in our minds, like all other magic tricks. Amazing things can come from being cornered. You back a mouse into a corner and he'll attack a lion. So the problem is not the corner itself, because corners, either physical or metaphysical, there are 90-degree bended buddies like 99% of the time. Corners can be relied on. They are stronger than any wall physically. Just ask an engineer or an architect. They're what show the boundaries that we need to negotiate, around or within. Just like in real life. Just like in real life.
I want to be a real boy. There are no strings on me.
Wow, speaking of finding yourself in a corner, wow, Pinocchio sure did. Went from being trapped inside a rolling cage of a prison because he ditched school to being swallowed into the belly of a giant whale. My favorite impression of Pinocchio is when he's underwater, swallowed by that whale, and he calls out for help. Geppetto! That was bad. Funny though, the best way for Pinocchio to get himself out of a corner is probably the same way he got into one. Tell a lie. Tell a lie and it gets you sent into a corner. Tell a lie with Pinocchio's nose and it'll launch you out of that corner all the way across the room. Okay, well that was that rant. Now, back to our episode of Corner Talk. Corners are, well, they're only there to affect the float and give us direction that we can rely on and to protect us from getting burned too often through life. Protect us from getting burned, you say? Wow, that sounds more like you're still talking about corners of the American football defensive secondary here. Well, maybe so. Maybe as much as architecturally designed structures we are. Maybe there's a bunch of both. What do I mean? Well, for those who may not know, football has corners. And for those who do know, then you know that when we're backed up and backpedaling, we're never more like the all-pro cornerback. No, not quarterback, cornerback. Pigskin parabolic time here. Cornerbacks, well, their job is to rein in the wideouts, the wide receivers on the opposing team. They're the fast guys who can get away from you. So if the front line of the defense can't stop the offensive attack, those cornerbacks, well, they've got your back. Well, them and the safeties. But safeties are more a last resort, like in life. Earlier we talked about being put into a corner, backed into one, or even painting ourselves into a corner. If you find yourself painted into a corner, first, look at your own hand to see who's holding that paintbrush. One of the corners we talked about can be by consequence. One corner was by life. One corner may have been by choice. But all are for the good of the youth in us. Either for learning or due to our inexperience, being caught in a corner can keep us young. And when I say young, it means we can still fight our way out and we're not too old. Not so old that we think we can't think, fight, or figure our way out of them anymore. Corners keep you young because, well, they've symbolized so much for us all of our lives. Those memories in corners and of corners or from corners, they're unavoidable. Corners keep you younger because they put you in positions where you instinctively make a choice based on a question that makes you ask and face, how did I get here? How do I feel about that? What am I going to do about that? See, we don't ask those questions in all of the other everywheres that we find ourselves sometimes. We don't ask that question in our lazy boys. We don't ask, how did I get here, in our pool loungers. We don't ask it in the jacuzzi hot tubs. But we do sometimes ask it, though. We ask it when we find ourselves in a nursing home bed or in a newly acquired wheelchair that we can't get out of on our own. We do ask sometimes. We ask it when our choices land us where or when we find ourselves legally stripped of the right to drive a car or even behind bars. We do sometimes ask it when we find ourselves all 100% feeling alone, feeling like nobody wants to listen to us and no one's picking up the phone. So I ask myself about corners, do I like feeling like I'm cornered? I mean, am I creating drama for me and my offspring's mama just for the rush? No. I do not deliberately create corners. Don't seek them out. But I don't shirk them either. And neither does that wife that I talked about at the beginning of this, the one who I thought by now may be bored of hearing how I do best with my back in a corner. Nope, because I know so does she. She has a calm about her that complements my intellectual intensity, and when we come out fighting, we do so without necessarily even swinging. Our corners have kept us both younger. Our corners are there for a reason. In life, my wife knows how I have adored her so much at times it felt like some disorder. That's the past, which is past, and I am no mourner, for I have forever turned that corner. With her help, she's my #1 supporter. Crap, it sounds like I'm trapped, with my back in that same old corner. But from now on, back to back with my wife, and she knows that that is why I still adore her. Hey, baby, come on. Let's back each other up into a corner. And now, more words of wisdom to wow your socks off from the Live Life Lean Guide itself. Entry number 356. Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. Thomas Edison. And the guide's point of view on this? Opportunity? Dressed in overalls? Wouldn't those be called chance pants? So what do you think about this? Based on the Live Life Lean guided journal system, what have you learned recently that's new? What have you earned that wasn't just handed to you? Where have you added to the world that was special above and beyond you? Now be grateful for all of that. Reflect on it, respect it, and navigate somewhere next. Thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying your copy of the Live Life Lean, LEAN guide, enjoying it almost as much as I did creating it. And if you don't have a copy yet, go on over to amperage.com or Amazon and get started today experiencing the amazing power of knowing every day is literally yours to be grateful about, and you need never feel unfulfilled again. I'm Jim Hall, and until next time, good health, God bless, and now go get a little dirty learning something new. Earning what's not given to you, adding to this crazy world that we share, and navigating your way to something new and next.